Hey, hello. Hey, Garbob. Hello, Mudshark. Good to have you. And to anyone else who's joining or watching after the fact, welcome. My name is John Reed. I'm a technical agile coach with Industrial Logic. And in this sort of still pretty new Twitch series, very new, we are going to convert an existing old tool. Hey, Javier. Solo. We're going to convert a tool from ObjectiveC to Swift. And one thing I neglected to mention was why. Like, why bother? And I ask why because I think the initial geek tendency is, yes, of course, we must convert all things ObjectiveC to Swift. And no, you don't. You should if you are actively working in that code, or if there's another compelling technical reason to do so. In my case, if you look at the breakdown of languages, you can see that it's almost 50-50. There's half of it is ObjectiveC, and there's already a chunk of it that's Swift, and that's because I wanted a Swifty interface on top of the old ObjectiveC interface. But that's not why I'm doing this conversion. The reason is that folks want this in a Swift package. And presently, there is a technical limitation on Swift packages that they need to be in a single language. So if it's all Objective-C, that's fine. And in fact, I have published a couple of Swift packages now of OC Hamcrest and OC Makito. I don't know who will use them, if anyone, because they're really only good for testing Objective-C code. But just to demonstrate that even though they're written in Objective-C, I could put them out as Swift packages because they have all Objective-C code. In this case, we have a mix. And so I can't make it a Swift package due to the package manager's limitation until I get rid of this. That's why we are here. As a review, step 1 in any conversion is to have tests. Step 1A is to write those tests or convert those tests over to Swift so that they are already on the receiving end of Swift. So that's already part of the conversion process. But the big part, and the part that I felt like it still kept tripping me up, is to make sure you go from the leaves of your dependency graph and not from the thing that everything depends on. It is so tempting to say, oh, let's convert the common stuff first. And as soon as you do that, then you end up with Swift code depending on Objective-C code, depending on Swift code, and your build system will fall down and cry. You may not notice until you try to do an incremental build. So that's why we are here. Hello to others who have joined. Welcome. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say about this? Last time we spent like most of it wrestling with how is this being bridged at all, and found out that stuff that goes in the framework header is sort of automatically bridged. That was an interesting thing to learn. So let's get back to this. This is what we are trying to swizzle, or trying to write, is a UI alert controller extension. And for those of you who can't read Objective-C, or for whom it's been a long time, a plus right here means it's a class method. You can think of that as a static, but that's not quite the same. And so I decided to make it a class method for now. Maybe I'll make it static later. And in the spirit of pursuing parallel change, I'm going to create a second version of this. Maybe I should call it mock Swizzle 2. That's not a good name. There. The second version, Swizzle 2, I'm going to lay that down and get it in happy and then switch things over. So, let's go. I don't have coffee today. I'm thirsty. And as always, feel free to interrupt with comments, questions, although I see it's just the my 3 amigos who are here. All right, let's see if we can't call this, now that I exposed it. So this is an NS object, QCO mock alerts, replace class method, that's the one. And can I type a selector and what alert? Where is this? Where is this? Oh, this is just, right, of course, it's swizzling what it's supposed to swizzle, something in UI alert controller. Okay. So I need to get this selector in there. But how? If it doesn't show up, what am I supposed to do? Selectors. It's been a while since I've worked with selectors in Swift. Let me go back to the other one. By the way, I was feeling cramped for space last time, so I decreased the font size just a little bit. I think it's still big enough that folks can see it even on not big monitors. The code, let me know how that goes. So, like, why can't I get alert control? Why can't I do this? Why can I not specify the selector when we are importing UIKit? Well, there's our first hurdle. And those of you who are my 3 amigos who are here, you are, of course, I'm calling on you as usual for help. Proper way to use selectors in Swift. And if you're ever curious, like what the heck is a selector, I can talk about that. Sure looks like they ought to be able to. I mean, it is also a class method, which suggests that I need to speak to the class. I don't get it. I do not get it. Why isn't it completing? Okay. Running into trouble here. And I don't know where to go. And this is why we're live coding and where it may be less impressive than you were expecting. Help. Who's done swizzling in Swift? Anybody? I want to pass in 2 selectors. Brackets. Welcome, a oodle. Glad to have you. Where are you in the world? If you don't mind sharing, that's always fun to know. The brackets, though, that's ObjectiveC. That's not Swift, right? So I don't think that belongs in a... And brackets aren't part of a selector anyway, so I don't think that's part of a selector as expressed in Swift. But keep those suggestions coming. Let's see how it goes here. La 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 la. It sure looks like I should be able to. I'll type it out longhand. Even if, yes, maybe it's autocomplete messing me up. That could be. So let me see. Oh, the other thing, here's the other thing that might mess me up, is that there are, like, Swift is oddly aware of English nuances, like with title. And it could be that it's changing that to a different name without my knowing it. So, like, is it alert controller title? Let me check the syntax here. Or that's not right because the message isn't in there. This is closer to what I expect. Does the with title go away? All right, let's see. Alert controller with title message Swift. Is preferred style in there? I didn't think so. Oh, it is. And now, okay, alert controller with title colon message. Alert controller with title. This is what I don't get, is that's not it, because it's got to be, it's not an initializer, that's closer. Or is it? No, maybe you're right. Let me try. Hey, is that it? It could be. I think, you may have just put your finger on it. Yeah, you know, I was talking about what happens to the with title, and I've sort of forgot the other part is that because this is a class method to create an instance, that makes it in Swift a form of initializer. You might be helping me out here. Let's go. All right, let me put this on its own line. That might do it. Okay, let's see the other one. Selector. This will happen much easier. QCO mock alert. How come that's not coming in? Next puzzle. So this is it. This is the one that we're going to swizzle to. Let me just copy and paste this in here. This is meaningless to swizzle one something to itself, because that'll just keep the same thing in there, but maybe this will get us closer. It's basically a puzzle of if this one, this here, if this alert controller with title, initializer by inference, that creates an instance type, comes out looking one way. What about this one? This is very similar, just with a funny name. What Swifty expression is it? We don't know. Ah, dear. This is tricky. This is harder than I thought it would be. Self.init. That feels like it's the same thing. In fact, I might be able to get rid of this. Lord. Can I look in the generated header? Very good idea. I'm not sure how to do that. Probably I need Xcode to come in. Swift sample. Let's fire up Xcode and see what happens. If we can get at that generated header. Next thing I'm going to need is how do you get to the generated header? So here's the here's our subproject. So if I go in jump to generated interface, okay? I'm going to need to do that from something. Let's see if we can't do that. UI alert controller. Oh. This is why. It's not in the header. It's not there because it's not in the header. Here, let me up here. All right, this is making more sense. So backing up a bit, thank you so much for coming by. I don't know if you've watched before, Eudo, and this is just your first time to jump in and comment. I really appreciate your help. For those of you who are struggling to remember Objective-C, evidently I am. Things that, any functions that you define in the .m, that is the implementation, pretty sure that's why it's called .m. Any methods that you define here, you can't just get at those. They have to be in a header file. And the header file is essentially exposing only what you want. So I need to expose it. So I will expose it. And this seems like I should be able to do it here. Yeah. So thankfully with a bit, AppCode's help, AppCode back when it was Objective-C was super strong. It is once again, you know, excellent and swift, but it really was even stronger for Objective-C. So I can say declare this in the interface. And if we take a look at the interface, there it is now. This is why. Doggone. Can you not define and implement a function method in the implementation file like in C and C++? Well, you can, but you can't access it from outside. See, and I know, Javier, you've been working with C and C++. So when something inside of the implementation, everything inside of here can reach it. But outside of it, it only looks at the header file. And so that was the missing piece. And this also feels right in terms of kind of an overall pattern of how you move things, not just from one language to another, but that in any refactoring, it's pretty common to say, okay, I need to expose this a bit more so that, because it's going to move, I need to expose it, then shift it, and then maybe I can tighten it down again later. So let's now go back to what we have exposed, and we should be able to get at it. Let's see. There it is. So I see, so it almost feels like anything declared in the header will be public then. Almost. The interesting thing, especially for a framework, is that, and this is a step I took last time, many of these headers were, and if you look in the file inspector for a header, you can say, should the header itself, how widely exposed is it inside of the framework? And it used to be that it was at the project level, which meant that anything inside of the project could access the header file itself, but otherwise it was off limits. And so I made those public, but I didn't then take the follow-on step to say, and keep exposing more stuff in there. All right, so here we are. Let me tighten this up to be more like the format we see. There we go. Now it looks happy, and I think that this takes care of step one. It will fail for iOS. but maybe I can test it real quick. No, maybe not. I'm a little, it might be, I think the sample project is iOS only. All right. Well, let's call this victory. I'm just going to build it to make sure. And I've said this before, but I'll keep saying it. This is also why the interaction that I'm getting now, the input, the help that I'm receiving from you, is also why working together rather than an solo, people off in their own caves to code is so important. So important. It's don't let folks say, wow, pair programming is a waste because that's two people working on one problem. No, those two people working on one problem are going to bang it out faster than the one person going off by themselves and going, how do I do this? And going out and searching and struggling. It's much faster. It's more creative. All right, I'm going to commit this because it builds. And this is basically, it's not really tested. Excuse me. So it's a new feature. Well, it's a refactoring, but it's not tested yet. Part 1 of that's good. All right. Well, let's do part 2. Now I'm going to need more help because I don't think I've done this. No, I have done this in iOS. I mean, in Swift. But let's see if there isn't a thing here. Love these completions. That doesn't seem to be working though. No, it does. Okay, just need a little bit. So I think I can do the same thing, except now we're going to do the popover. So let me take this and paste it in here. And we are going to replace oops. Popover presentation controller with this one. And now, not that one, this one. And now I know this needs to be declared in the interface, which means to keep it from breaking, I'm going to have to grab that conditional. So let me declare it in the interface, but make sure that it is only for iOS. Why is it weird like that? It says it's not implemented. Why the heck does it say that? I think app code might be a little confused there. All right, so I should be able to place this with that. And this should build. No, does not build. Use getter. Oh, thank you. It's not a class method. That's part of the problem. Thank you for catching me there. Replace instance method. Thank you, thank you. And then we're left with this. The objectives use getter to refer to the ObjectiveC getter. Okay. Can you offer a little help? Apply the fix-it. Wow, I've never seen that. I assume I need it down here. No, it doesn't like that at all. All right, let's see if it looks like all the red squigglies have gone away, but just a quick check on building. Then let me commit this. Just here's a nice thing. I can say, grab the, like go through my message history here. Let's commit that. Now with this in place, the question is, can whatever calls this start calling the version 2 and keep everything passing? I'm trying to remember where it was, and I think it was in the alert verifier. And the alert verifier, you see, this is the part that I already started to convert to Swift. So it's already partway there. All right, let's look for Swizzle. Alert verifier, Swizzle mocks, okay. Swizzle mocks calls, here it is, alert controller Swizzle 2. So here's the big question. Is this going to work? It may not. Uh-oh, it's hanging on Popover. I would call this not fatal. Okay, so it's not ready. Yay, tests. And there's our, you can see it's getting a popover and saying there better be a popover there, and that failed. So there's something about the swizzling that ain't right. And I do sort of worry about this. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at what have we got here. So this one is, okay, so that is a getter. We can see in its, let me bring that back. We can see in the definition that it says get, and so That's why it needs, in the Swift side, it needs to say, this is a getter. But this here, I mean, technically it is a getter, but it's not. I mean, you know, it's not really a property. It's just jamming in this other thing. I wonder if that's a problem. I feel like if we can solve these problems for this one class, then the rest of this project will start flying by. No. Self response to selector QCO mock. Oh, this is interesting. Look at this. It returns nil. What is this? I wonder if this is something I also need to expose. All right, let's fire up the debugger and find out what's happening here. In app code, the debugger does not run unless you say so. So normally I run tests, but this time I want to debug tests. The distinction is there to make it faster to run tests because I use the debugger very seldom. So let's see if we hit that breakpoint. And this is why I don't run the debugger. It has to take time to attach. And it doesn't look like it hit it. Like, what's it calling? But at least we do get a call stack. I can begin looking for what is going on. Yeah, so it is definitely trying to call popover and failing. Trying to get the popover. And there's popover and it's nil. Okay. Okay. And just to confirm that I'm not going completely mad, let's revert this. I'm going to make a bookmark there. This is a nice feature of app code. Is rather than putting in something like, John was here, this is the thing I'm interested in, or more typically, I put in my initials in the past so that I can search for, like, where is that piece of code? Instead, the app code has this notion of bookmarks. So I can come back here easily and I can just say, you know what, revert this. And let's run the test just to sanity check that they're all fine, which they are. Okay. All right, let's dig into popover and figure out what's going on. What is creating that popover? Let's go bigger. And let's find out. Test, Popover for action sheet. And that was nil. Actually, I want to see something else. That is what I want to know. What is this? What's initializing this? Is it just by virtue of being... Shoot. This is the test code. So I need to go to the sample code. That's what it is. Okay, here's Popover with an action sheet. All right. We can start putting some breakpoints here and there to get a sense. So here's where it says, grab the Popover by getting the Popover presentation controller. And if we can get it, set these things on it. Let me just, yeah, that's the only place. All right, let me run the debugger now on the functioning code, and maybe we'll learn a little more. This is tough going. I wish you guys were here with me in the room. Okay, so does it respond? That's interesting. It hit this. We didn't hit this before. Is it because... I'm just looking to see, like, what's what here in the call stack. Okay, so down, skipping, skip. Here's a test to show an alert. That's not the test I was expecting. Maybe I should keep going, except it'll keep triggering on other tests. So let's learn a little bit. Show alert. Show alert says tap the alert button. The alert button. So here's show alert, but it's an action sheet we need. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And resume program is, I can see the shortcut here is Option Command R. So let's do that. I'm gonna, there we go. Now we're in show action sheet, alert controller. As Popover presentation controller. I don't see it, but if I step, oh, see, there it is. It's going to the swizzled thing and saying, do I respond to this? And if so, return the mock. And at that point, Popover is actually faked out something. Okay. All right, let me stop this. And let me go back to my bookmark and change this to Swizzle 2, and let's do this again. Tough going, but important work. All right, so here we are. If I step into this, whoop. Okay, so the swizzling is not happening as expected. This is not getting to where it's supposed to be. So it's trying to get Popover presentation controller. Let me put a breakpoint there, because is this being called? Because we ought to be getting to here, and we weren't. Let's try it again. Wait for the debugger to attach. So here we are. Which is going in and getting turning the selector into a method. That's the original one. Original method. Whoa, original method is null, and swizzled method is also null. That seems weird. That seems weird. Let me try this again and I want to see what this looks like for the regular swizzling that does seem to be working? Question mark. Right, so here, if we get original method, that gets a method. And swizzled method, that also gets a method. So that's fine. This one is A-OK. But this one is not. It tries to get an instance method for the selector, Popover presentation controller. And it comes up with nothing. And same for the swizzled method. So it's doing nothing. Womp womp. All right. We have a mystery. Am I supposed to use self in this? I definitely trust this ObjectiveC code. It is quite old. It is well worn. And class get instance method needs a self. Okay, yes, self in this case, because this is an instance method, self is a class. It's a little puzzling, but that's different from what you're used to in Swift. Self can have two meanings in ObjectiveC. Oh my. This is most puzzling. All right, let me grab this this little bit here. Just to keep it handy. Because I want to know, like, those are the names. Those are the selectors. And self. It's funny that it says NS object. That seems funny to me. Here we go. Let's do more debugging. It seems funny that self was an NS object. Because here, self is UI alert action. That seems okay. In that case, it's replacing something on alert action. I'll keep these on. Let's let it continue. And here, this may or may not be working. All right, let me switch this back to the original. And let's compare some of this swizzling that was working against the swizzling that is not working. I haven't said swizzle so much in years. Okay, an alert action, all good. Whoops. An alert controller. This is an, sure looks like the wrong type to me. See this? We've got UI alert controller when it's working. That is going to say, this is the class that we want. But here it's trying to go into NS object. NS object has no such thing. Okay, we are getting there. So the next question is, why is this being called here? Self is very much the UI alert controller. Self, the class, but things are going to be different elsewhere. All right, we're starting to unravel the mystery. Let's go back and set this back to 2. Love the bookmarks. And we'll wrap this up soon. I hope we can like solve this mystery. This is also why you don't go like and do a massive rewrite of something. Is it that I'm calling NS object? But this is an NS object method. But inside of here, you'd think I'd be sending. It's getting lost as to who self is, or what the class is. to replace. Did I interrupt myself in the middle of a thought? Basically, you don't go and rewrite a whole bunch of stuff and then get to the very end and say, does it work? What I'm trying to do, and it is working, even though it's frustrating, is to move in the small steps and try to get feedback along the way. So I don't think the problem is with getter. We call into here, and its idea of what we are calling is getting lost. This is a class function. This is a class method. And inside of here, the self, the class, ought to be whatever it is I am sending a message to. And that's getting lost somehow. Ah, dear. Replace instance method. One selector with another selector. And these are both on, wait, UI alert controller. Yeah, except this one is on UI view controller. Is that the problem? If we look at the other one, what's it say? It is UI view controller. Maybe it's getting lost. Having made a change and being on Swizzle 2, why don't we see what happens if I just run tests? Ah, still no good. Still no good. Darn it. And no doubt it's the same thing. No doubt. I shouldn't say no doubt. Always check. Hypotheses are hypotheses. You have to validate them. Right, so here we are. I'm going to replace the UI view controller popover with this other one. But it's in UI alert controller. Does UI alert controller have its own popover? No, it is a UI view controller. Let's go in, and self is an NS object. Darn it. All right. I think we've hit a point now where I have a problem and I don't know how to solve it. I don't think you know how to solve it either. I'm going to have to go out on broader Twitter and get some help. But let me first undo this change. This is the sort of swizzle the right thing, although I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this makes a difference. I'm not convinced that this is an issue or that it's worth keeping. So let me revert that as well. This is a tough nut. My gosh, I didn't think it would get so hairy. But let me take this now out onto to get broader help from other folks in a real work situation. It would be if we were a pair, or in this case, 3 of us working together, and we're like, we can't get it. What you do is you say, let's go grab the other folks and let's get more heads. I'm just doing that in a slower way. All right. Thank you so much for sticking with me, for your patience. And we'll see what folks say, and we'll see how to solve this method. It is a curious problem. I hope to keep going with this coming Saturday. So, thank you. Appreciate you guys.